you're pruning a tree with one of these, you're stubbing the stems off, and that's not the proper way to prune trees, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. Starting from small to going to larger, we have hand pruners. Now, when we prune trees, it's preferred that you use bypass pruners. And what a bypass pruner is a pruning device where the blade passes the anvil. This is called the anvil. And so the blade needs to pass the anvil to make a nice clean cut. These, with the straight anvil, where the blade touches the anvil itself and pushes against the anvil to make the cut, can actually bruise a small amount of stem, which the stem needs to heal properly, and that may not completely heal properly if you cut every stem with this type. So I recommend that you don't use these, but use the bypass hand pruners, where the blade passes the anvil. Okay, so the other thing that we go the next step higher are loppers, and I like to use this pair of loppers here. I put my gloves on because I'm touching the blades, and you never know what can happen. Now these look small. They look small, but they're powerful because this brand here has what's called a ratchet system. I love these loppers. As a matter of fact, these are the only loppers that I like to use. They sell another type of lopper. Let me get them out of my truck here. Oops, wrong side. You would think that these loppers here would be more powerful, and it has a type of system here that gives it a little bit more power. But in all honesty, these cut just as good as these do. And and these take up more room. So, you know, I would recommend something like this. And it's a good brand name too. Fiskars, Corona makes some good pruning tools, and there are some other name brands out there that are good too. But you gotta always try to get something name brand, because you gotta remember, you get what you pay for. So the cheaper you pay for something, the less you're probably going to get out of it.
What would be the cost of something like that?
This here, I think, costs about $30.
How do you keep your blades sharp? Or are those replaceable or sharpenable, or you have to just get new ones?
I think that there's a way to sharpen these. Of course, you have to sharpen them on this side,
right,
not on this side.
Okay.
So there probably is a way to sharpen these.
We sharpen ours all the time.
Yeah.
We sharpen ours all the time.
Okay.
We have 2 sets, yeah.
Okay.
It's routine.
Very important thing to remember about loppers and hand pruners is you don't want to cut something that's too big for them to handle, because one, you'll probably end up damaging the tree, and two, you'll probably warp the blade, making this useless.
Yeah.
You ever had these or a pair of hand pruners and you get the wood wedged in there? That's because you're probably cutting something too big for these to handle, and then you've warped the blade, making it useless.
What would be a maximum size branch to cut with that?
I don't like to cut anything more than 1 inch with these. More, 1 inch with these. If I'm going to cut anything with more than 1 inch, I'm going to go to the next size up, which is a hand saw. Now I like this hand saw here. This is a Corona. Fiskars sells a nice one too. There probably are some other models out there made by Vermeer or some other companies. But this is a really nice, cheap hand saw. I think this costs maybe $15 if I remember, or 20, something like that. But I have had this hand saw in my truck for a year and have not had to sharpen it or replace it. I don't know if it can be sharpened. I think it can, but anyways, I've had this in my truck for a year. I'm still using it every day. I had to replace the nut on it. That's one thing you have to watch on these, is you have to watch, make sure that the nut's not backing off. But these are really, really handy. And if you got something over 1 inch but less than, a few inches in diameter, this is you'll see me use this here in a few minutes on something. Then the next size up is going to be your chainsaw. So the first thing I want to do is show how to start this. You want to grab the end of that? We'll watch start it.
Failed that test.
Shawn, where's your ski mask?
Yeah. So I'm going to switch gear here, and I'm going to put this stuff on. And I'm not really going to start it yet, but I'm going to go ahead and keep this on while I'm talking. You know, there a lot of people when they start these chainsaws, how many people start their chainsaw like this? Now, this is not the right way to start a chainsaw. You also don't start it like this. There's only two proper ways to start a chainsaw. One is on the ground like this, called the leg lock method, like that. And the other is like this. And if you hold it right, you're not going to hurt yourself. Look out, there's somebody coming through. So, with that said, you also need to make sure, I don't think they sell any chainsaws now that don't have a chain brake on it. So you always need to make sure your chain brake is on before you start it. Make sure all your components are in working order. Make sure your chain is sharp. If you're cutting with a dull chain, you're going to wear yourself out, or you're going to damage the tree, or something's not going to happen right. So make sure your chain is sharp. And when it becomes dull, stop trying to cut with it. How many people have tried to cut like this with a chainsaw? It don't make it cut any faster. So just stop, swap the chain out with another one, or sharpen the chain if you can. There's a whole bunch of ways to do that. But make sure your chain's sharp and everything's working. You know, I'm not going to start it yet, but we'll come back around and I'll demonstrate the proper way to use this. So now we're going to take a walk around a little bit. I'm going to show everybody how to do some proper pruning and what to look for when pruning trees, and just show a few things here and there. Gear back up here. So,
Carpenter pants. I guess they're pruning pants.
That's right.
Those are pruning pants. They're not carpenter pants.
all right,
Walk over